Okay, so we're back. We just had a little issue there. We had got a beautiful rip-roaring fire. You can probably hear it crackling every now and then. We've got a big log fire happening, and one of the logs fell out, and the smoke alarm started going. So Kathy to the
Just
rescue. She came
part
in
of
and
the part of the joys of having a beautiful lounge room fire.
yeah. So anyway, we're back. A little bit smoky in here, but it's all beautiful.
Trying to think where I was up to. Yeah,
You said about
farming's my background. Creating food, basically at the edge of the desert. So you're creating something from nothing, and so I got kind of really good at that. Grew up with that concept that to grow food, you actually put in very little to produce something back, but it got into the farming business. The whole concept of farming changed so dramatically from when I was a kid to where it is now. It's big business. It's about growing commodities. It's high finance, and it's funded by the institutions that provide the chemistry for farming. And that took us on a road that I would not recommend for anybody. It took me downhill in my health, and also it led us to a point where we're no longer financially sustainable on the property that had been in the family for 52 years. So really, really disappointing.
So can you just explain what you mean by it took you down that road with regards to chemicals and the institutions and what have you?
With respect to farming, we had some series of droughts, and then you kind of get dependent on extra finance, so you borrow against the property, which seems okay at the time. It seems like the logical thing to do. Lots of equity, reasonable cash flow, and then you get into a trap of, you've got 2 or 3 droughts in a row, and then you still haven't cleared your overdraft, so you borrow more. And then new ideas come along in farming, new chemicals. It's like, well, you need to use this, you need to put more of this on. So a lot of pressure from marketing side of things to, wow, there goes our fire again. Marketing chemistry. Marketing chemistry to farmers that have no clue as to whether they really need it or not. It's marketed to you in a way that it's going to increase your bottom line, that's going to benefit your production, you're going to produce more, but they don't tell you what it's actually going to do to your health, what it's going to do to your bottom line. They tell you it's going to increase it, but the cost of some of these things is prohibitive in even good farming areas. But you take that to an area where you're marginal, just enough rain to grow dry land crops, and then you get a drought or two and it's just not viable. Do that enough years in a row and you're out of pocket and you're left high and dry. But they don't come and say, "Oh, I'm sorry, we actually didn't need to market that to you. It was, the wrong idea," or there's no there's no redress on how they marketed it to you. It's a matter of, well, you can survive, you've still got equity, we'll throw some more money your way, keep going. So you end up in a trap, and I was on a treadmill, burning up my life energy, paying anywhere from 12% to 24% interest.
Wow.
On amounts of, over $1 million at a time.
Far, yeah.
And each time I wanted to put a new crop in, I'd go and borrow another $250,000, $300,000 to basically go and put in the ground at the hope of a harvest that was better than the one before. And whether you achieve it or not, it's entirely up to the weather. So I actually would have had more chance to borrowing $300,000, going to the casino and playing blackjack. So it's a real touch and go game. So I knew what it was to access funds and go through all that process, and just be seeing myself on a treadmill of life that you can never win. That forced me to learn a lot of things through that process of the bank then going, well, we can no longer fund you. They didn't say any reasons why, but I know the reason why. I chose to go into organic farming, and I said I don't need any more finance. I don't need any more funding to borrow, to buy chemistry to grow food, because it was making me sick to grow food. So how was it making people eat it, feel, making them sick? We've got an industry based on health and wellness. Well, the medical industry is based on sickness, and I was starting to look more into how I healed my own body from the chemistry and what I'd been handling. So I had to get out of that trap of producing food with chemistry. I wanted to produce organic food, and I didn't need the finance to do that. And that really disappointed them as a financial institution. They went, well, you are no longer going to be dependent on us somewhere in the future, so we don't need you now. And they took my financial status from a level 5 to a level 10 and decided to recall security by a sale of the property and forced me down a road that I had to just create funds out of nothing.
And so, Jason, that was all because you had stopped and looked at what you were doing,
Yeah.
and looked at the health of people that you were supplying
Yeah.
in the food chain. You stepped out of the box,
Yeah.
decided to go down the organic road, and that takes quite a while for you to
It's a
get
3-year
rid of,
process.
yeah, and to get your
Minimum,
certification, to
yeah.
get rid of all of the chemicals and everything that leached into the
Yeah.
land. And so because you no longer fitted into the
Didn't
spreadsheet
fit the
as far as
requirements.
you weren't spending money on chemicals, then you were no longer...
Yep. Our whole borrowing funds on our overdraft at 12, 14%, our whole concept of that was to buy chemical fertiliser, to buy herbicides, to spray weeds, and then to use crop protectants to keep our crop from insect or disease. So when you no longer need that, you don't need to borrow money for that. They go, well, what do you need us for? It's like, well, you got me here. You can stay with me to get me out of here, and I'll do it a lot faster with an organic model. And I presented an organic farming model without borrowing extra funds and producing a higher value commodity to a market that's in demand. And you know what they just said? We don't have a model for organic farming. And went, okay, well, I'll try a different bank with the default already placed on my account because of 3 years of drought without being able to repay overdraft. A default placed. And I said, well, can you lift the default? Well, no, you're still technically in default. Okay, I'll go to some other banks. I went to 7 other banks in Australia, and they said, well, if you came to us with the amount of equity you've got, with the history you've got, we'll be fine to finance you, except we don't have a model for organic farming. And I was going like, this is ridiculous.
Crazy.
So I went private finance, had someone set up to buy the farm out of the bank, and it didn't come off. To my benefit and to my ultimate good, it didn't come off. At the time, it was the worst thing that ever happened to me in my entire life, other than my health issues that I'd faced when I was younger. It just tore my life apart to think that the property that's been in the family for 52 years or 54 years, I think it was, is now being sold at half its value to somebody who does not care about the organic status, does not care about what we put in trees. I've done projects for investors. I've done projects for the government. We had a nice lot of organic native vegetation being specifically planted for carbon plantations and specifically for certain people. And the care factor of that was not there. The bank did not care. The new owners didn't care. Some of it has been protected. Unfortunately, a lot of it has been taken out. So I am morally obligated to go and plant a new lot of plantations, and I will, because I totally believe we have a big deficit in vegetation globally. So we are still passionate about planting trees, and we are going back into that next year. So looking forward to that.
Yeah.
But along the way, we had to create funds out of nothing. So we got better and better at doing that.
Yeah. And I know that a few years ago, Jason was going to help me sell a property that I have investment property up in Queensland, through some creative strategies of Rick Otten's, that you were doing. So maybe if you were doing that while you were going through this hardship and the battle with the bank, and going through all of that. So with the minds, how do you cope with being able to sleep at night, thinking you've got your family farm that your parents were in part of beforehand? How do you go through all of that, knowing that you're going to have a family farm taken away, that you've planted all these, I know it was thousands of trees that you planted. I remember talking to you beforehand about that. 2 family homes, because your parents lived in the house next to you on the farm, and your own home. 3 young children at the time. How did you cope with all of that? How did you cope, first of all, mentally, but also financially?
Well, I think it was around the time I met you. I had read a book called Think and Grow Rich, and I got to a point. I had a motorbike accident as the bank were kind of already starting to try and take possession, and we'd taken some steps to stop that happening immediately because we wanted some time. We didn't feel like we were given the right processes, and legally they'd done a lot of things that they hadn't given us the right processes, so we had some legal reasons to hold them off. I had a motorbike accident. I'm laying up in hospital with a smashed leg, thinking this could not get any worse. How do I get out of this? And I thought of a book that I'd been given and hadn't really given it much attention, with Think and Grow Rich, and I went, only thing I've got left to do is think. I'm laying up for sort of 3 months probably, waiting for my leg to heal, with the bank knocking on the door, 2 young kids at the time going, what have I got left? I've got nothing left financially. Emotionally, I was bankrupt, and I went, I've got the capacity to think. So I started thinking my way through the problems using Think and Grow Rich principles. I ended up in a Think and Grow Rich seminar and learnt some strategies in property that changed my entire life as far as the way I saw property as an investment vehicle. But I didn't need funds, which sounds strange, but I learnt strategies from Rick Otten that he mentored me personally for a year, went through his full mentoring course. At the time, I had no money to pay for that course. I negotiated my way in, and Rick, being the master negotiator, he just said, look, if you can negotiate your way into my course, I'll back you with my knowledge. And I basically paid for that course in the first 6 weeks.
Excellent.
So $26,000 of value I'd created out of nothing. So
through following his strategies.
Following the strategies that he taught, and in that 1 year of mentoring, I became his prodigy in a way. I won a trip to the USA for our whole family. We had 3 weeks just hopping around the US doing what we wanted to do in the middle of this crisis. So on one hand, there's something really good going on. On the other hand, it was something really heavy and really negative going on. It was like, okay, I've got to let go of the one I don't want. I didn't want the negativity anymore, because of what I was starting to learn as far as thinking my way through the process. So I wanted to let go of the one that was actually holding me back from the real me, or the potential I had. So I thought, well, put these 2 things together and let's just see what happens.
And I suppose all of this happened all at the right time, really, because you came across TGR events, or Think and Grow Rich, which is Stuart, a good friend of mine, Stuart Zadell, and we've both been to Stuart's events and crewed for him, which is, when you're at seminars and the black shirts crewing and what have you. And I used to run property investment seminars. I was a trainer within that, and that's where I met Stuart, because he was doing the same as well. Both support members for an investment finance club. And so that was back in 2003. And Stuart at the time had gone over to, I can't remember if it was America or Canada, to study under Bob Proctor. So a fantastic mentor, guru, teacher, trainer, coach. And so Stuart came back and he started teaching Bob Proctor's,
Yep.
Little stick figure man and the mindset and how to change your thermostat and your thinking, or as T. Harv Eker would say, your financial blueprint, and really change that. And we all operate at wherever our thermostat or blueprint is set, and we can change all of that.
Yeah, the Bob Proctor teaching is what kept me alive, basically, through some of the toughest moments of my life. I had his course. It was
You Were Born Rich?
You Were Born Rich. Sorry,
I've got that.
I had
I bought everything from Stuart when
and I used to just listen to it in the car continually when I was getting to a state of felt like I was losing control of my mind. Bob Proctor would put me back on track and be like, there's always something more possible. Yeah. And there's always something new you can create. Yeah. So, I owe him my life. I got to the point several times through that journey where I was thinking suicidal thoughts, even though I had a fantastic family. Yeah. And
because you couldn't see any end in sight.
Yeah, it was a way up between, how do we get out of this? I wasn't looking for an easy way out. I was just looking for an end to an ongoing battle, and the battle was really with myself. Obviously, I can see that in hindsight,
but you're in the middle of it,
it's like, wow. But thankfully, we're in a better position now than we'd ever been.
Yeah, and through Stuart's events and Think and Grow Rich, that's where you came across Rick, one of the speakers, and I mean, Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill. Stuart is helping a lot of people as well by getting those books out free to people who go to the events or go to his website and what have you. And I first came across Napoleon Hill back in, God, I won't say what year because I was 22 at the time, and I started working for Clement Stone, who was in I featured in last month's issue, so you can read about that in last month's issue. And Clement Stone, Clement Stone, was the owner of the company that I work for, and so at that age, I can still I can just spout out so many of the quotes that we had to learn verbatim. That was my life, just learning his quotes verbatim, knowing parts of the Napoleon Hill book, Think and Grow Rich and what have you. So you started going through all of that. At the right time
became
for you.
A student.
When the student's ready, the teacher will arrive.
That's exactly right. I started realising I had to invest in me. When I took Rick Otten's program, he mentored me. He had more belief in me than I had in myself, which is what changed me and took me through to some amazing things. He then flew me around to a lot of events across Australia to assist others learn what he had, and I still consider him, personal friend, and he's changed my life. So, really thankful for what I learned from Rick. And then,
and Jane's gorgeous as well, his wife.
Absolutely, really genuine pair that are genuinely in that business to change people's lives. They don't do it just to trade property. They love seeing their students become more and more alive and in life and enjoying life.
And like you're passionate about food production and the food industry and health and what have you, and changing that system from a huge, you've got a huge dream, a huge goal in mind. Rick has been instrumental and is instrumental for all those of you who are from Australia in changing the legal system in Australia, because the legal system obviously stems back for centuries following from the British system.
It's as old as Australia, and some of it is so outdated in the way property is transacted. Rick is going to overhaul it, and he is overhauling it state by state. He's making so much change merely because the people, the numbers of people that want to trade property a different way than the traditional way,
through creative financing,
is then starting to become more mainstream. So then the processes need to change to keep up. So love it, and I love his passion to keep going. Yeah.
Okay, so you went along with Rick as your mentor, and you created some income through creative financing, through creating win-win situations for buyers and sellers.
That's right.
And so where that brought you some income in, and where did you go after that? If we can look at what did happen with your farm?
Well, we got to a point where I was creating so much off farm to prop up the farm in drought situation and in a default situation that it was like, why continue to hold on to this negative experience? Yes, it was a very emotional connection to the family farm. It's like, I've got this ability just to create income from no money spent. So why spend a fortune to try and grow food? And the money I was spending was all on interest, around 24% interest on pretty much close to $2 million at the time. And all the money to pay the interest bill was coming from my property transactions. I was like, this is crazy. I could be living, a 5-star lifestyle without the debt. So it got easy.
Well, with the income you were earning, you could be taking the family overseas for 6 weeks.
All that funds went into an interest bill, and I was like, no, we've got to end this. And we're pregnant with our third child, and my wife and I decided we're going to put a date on the end of this, and it was the date of his birth, and we didn't find out until the scans were done. And it's like, this is just freaky, but we're going to end this. We're going to let go. We'll have one last attempt at someone else buying the property, and we'll just manage it. And it didn't come off, and thankfully it didn't. Otherwise, I was still doing paying interest, and I don't believe in interest. I don't believe in debt. I am completely converted that everything I do now is about residual income, passive cash flow. I've got things happening now that require less and less of me, and then I follow what I'm passionate about, and that is changing the way the world eats and looking at food and producing food. So I've got my life back, and I've got time now to create these. I'm educating. So
you think one of the most powerful things that you did was being able to let go?
Yep. Letting go was the hardest thing, and yet looking back, probably the best decision that has ever been forced into my life. It's like, once I let go of debt, I could take on, there was much more being given to me than I could see at the time. So it was kind of like an experience of rebirthing me as a human being, to not have to exist my life on a treadmill of debt and then pass that on to my kids to exist their life on a treadmill of debt. I don't believe in financial institutions. I will never borrow funds again. Everything I do now is created from a place of prosperity and abundance. And once you start getting that mindset happening and you get free, I couldn't do it continually and couldn't get excited about it while I still had both things going on. But now, from a place of prosperity and abundance, that's all I live in. I live in a place now where my day goes as I choose it to go. I haven't got these crazy demands coming at me from someone that has a figure on a page that's not even realistic. It's not even reflective of who I am. When you start to get into a position of debt, you start to just think that reflects on who you are as a person, and don't believe it, because it tears away at your self-esteem, it tears away at your life, it makes decisions change in your life, whereas now I can choose from a place of, okay, I can do that, I can do this. It's not that I'm a millionaire yet, but I have a millionaire lifestyle already. And we're at a point where we're financially free, we have more coming in than going out every week, and life becomes different. And when you get into that headset continually, it just seems to create more and more of abundance. And that's, it took me so many years of learning that experience actually the hard way, that I was getting more and more of what I didn't want. And I didn't know, but I've learned the greatest lesson that anyone could ever learn is you go through that process, you let go, and you become someone new. And thankfully, people that meet me now that might not have seen me for a few years ago, are you the same person? Well, no, I'm not. I'm completely different.
Yeah. I know. I was just saying to you just before. Oh, I'm going all red now with the fire.
Heat from fire.
I know I was saying to you just before that when I saw you at the Millionaire Mind Intensive
Yep.
In Adelaide, which is where we live,
yeah,
it was just at the point where the bank was taking the property. There were I can't remember, did it go to auction?
Yeah, it was only, I think when I did Millionaire Mind Intensive was in approximately May 2013.
Yep.
The auction was set for July 2013. So it was a month off auction date, and I wasn't in too good a state. I could see that the property was going to go to somebody else, and it was out of my hands. So I had to then start coming back to, okay, I've got to work on me, not be concerned with this external thing that's going on. So fix it from the inside, let go of the external evidence of what was happening, which was, a final wrap up. And once that finalised,
somewhat out of your control now. Yeah.
Once that finalised, my whole load had been lifted.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's still things to finalise. It doesn't happen overnight.
Yeah.
But it was a finality in my headset of borrowing money to create money and borrowing funds to continue on a path that I wasn't meant to be on. I'm definitely on a mission to be back in farming in a bigger way than I left it.
Yep.
But from a place of abundance, not from lack and limitation and need and
owing
want and owing and debt. That will never happen again. When I buy back in and buy my own land again, it'll be
under your terms.
Created. Yeah.
And do you feel that the Millionaire Mind Intensive happened at the right time for you?
Perfect. It was a timing. Just, I don't know whether there's been a Millionaire Mind this year, but that timing and that offer is just was so perfect that I couldn't have created it. I couldn't have. I obviously did somehow. It came about for the right reason.
Yeah.
And I believe everything in my life has come about for the right reasons. That's who I am now. Yeah. Is because of those things. So Millionaire Mind Intensive, 3 days of intensive learning strategies, just how to control your financial blueprint. I walked out of there. I joined another course. I didn't go there to join a course. I wasn't even in the right state to take on more learning. But I realised...
Pay for more learning?
Pay for it. I had no money. I had nothing left.
Yeah. But you knew that you had to do it and that money would come from somewhere.
Once again, they trusted me to educate on a basically, I will pay. It was crazy. It was like, hang on. I'm not even working at the moment. I'm in a place where I can't, I don't know how I'm going to make the next dollar, but I signed up for Quantum Leap because I knew I had to, because I wanted to get back into that headset of where I was riding the crest of the wave because of what I learnt from Rick Otten, Bob Proctor, all the things I did before.
Yeah.
And it was, I needed to get back on track now that I'd let go of the problem. Yeah. So perfect timing, everything was perfect to do it, and it was just have a go. So
so for anyone out there, MMI or Millionaire Mind Intensive is a T. Harv Eker 3-day seminar, free seminar, and we can get you free tickets if you would like them. Absolutely. If you don't know where to get them from, but they are held all over the world. So Australia, United States, UK, Europe, Asia, Africa, they're held all over the world. So I will put a link on this page somewhere that you can link through to get some.
Harv has become one of the greatest teachers on financial blueprint ever, and because he's done it. It's not hocus pocus. It's not airy fairy. It's not teaching you stuff that doesn't work in the real world. And that's what I like about Harv. He's a really genuine teacher.
And one of the funnest, most simple things that you are taught while you're there is the financial freedom accounts.
Yeah.
So 5 different accounts, and actually in this magazine. That's what I'm talking about with the financial freedom accounts. So
works. Trust me.
I don't know whether it's before this page or after the pages that you're on now watching this, but I talk about it all there and teach you how to use that for your own prosperity. And
he calls it
wealth
the
creation.
jar system, the
jar
basic jar system.
Yeah.
But we did it with 5 accounts, and it's fantastic.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's
Manage
so
your
simple.
money.
You don't need to budget. You don't need to. It is just mind-blowingly simple and so effective.
Stress out of money.
Yeah.
Just knowing.
And it's fun.
Yeah, knowing what is yours to spend and blow, knowing what is yours to keep, knowing what is there for the bills to pay.
And you've got play money.
Yeah.
That you've got to spend.
Love it.
You've got to spend. Okay.
Yeah, no, it's been an interesting year, and
I'll just pause it here now.
Sure.